Welcome to Power Talks. I'm Beth Ann, and I think we've got Melody. We're having a little trouble with our phone lines this morning. It is a Monday, and it is Eclipse Day, but we hope to be here with you and to empower you with truth. And we thank you for inviting us into your homes or your cars or wherever you're listening to Power Talks. The big hoopla here in Missouri is the eclipse. We are right in line to be totally eclipsed. It's the Super Bowl of the solar system is what they're calling it. And, of course, today the moon will obscure the sun, and people across the United States will travel to a narrow band of land where the sun will be completely blocked out. But even if you're far away and watching from home, you'll see something special happen in the sky, is what they say. Now, I remember these from when I was a kid. We had one, and I remember Mom making a piece of paper, and she handed us two papers. She warned us not to look up at the sun, but to let the sun reflect through the paper we held in our hand, which had a little hole in it, to the paper that we laid on the sidewalk that was just a sheet of paper. And as you do that, the reflection through that hole, you could see the sun, or the moon, eclipsing the sun. And we watched it that way when I was a kid, and I was probably only, I want to say, 8 or 9 years old. I don't remember my age at that time, but I remember it was a big deal, and it's a big deal today. I mean, they've been selling and giving away special glasses for your eyes and warning people not to look up and that it will damage your eyes. And, of course, it will, because before it's in its totality, completely dark, the sun, it will appear cloudy, not really cloudy, but like a cloudy day, and you think you can look up. But the rays are still just as strong as if the sun was bright, so you can damage your eyes. So you don't want to do that. Sunglasses are not enough. You need something a little darker than that, they say, and I can't remember the grade of, or however they measure a welding helmet. But that will work as well if it's a little higher grade. 10 is not high enough. And it's a big deal, and people are having eclipse parties here in Missouri. I'm going to be a party of one. But I did have some kids drive in. They're going to have parties, and I scolded them last night, tried to guilt trip them that they didn't invite their mother to their party, but it didn't seem to work. I think we have Melody. I think I hear her in the background. Melody,
yes,
are you with
yes.
us? Okay.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I had a safe trip. I rented a car because my car's not been running too good. My husband said, I'll rent you a car. So he rented a car for me to drive to Oklahoma and back, and so I got to return that today. I had a play day yesterday, and so I had a good time, and I'm back in the saddle, my friend, back in the saddle, and we are going to experience an eclipse. And you will, too, but you told me you're going to watch it on TV.
Yeah, I got too much to do. I have too much
outside?
to do in order to go outside and look at the eclipse. But there were some eclipse misconceptions over the years. And are you pregnant?
I am not.
Well, one of the misconceptions were that if you are pregnant, you should not watch an eclipse because it can harm your baby. And this was kind of related to the previous false ideas that harmful radiations are emitted during the total solar eclipse. And although the electromagnetic radiation from the corona, seen as light, is perfectly safe, there is another form of radiation that travels to Earth from the sun. But that was one of those things that it should not hurt your baby. Eclipses will poison any food that is prepared during the event. This is also a false idea. And eclipses are harbingers of something very bad about to happen. So those were some of the things that, yes, as you mentioned, the radiations that, as usual, it's only when the moon, I believe, is totally eclipsed. But
the sun.
Yes, but who dares do that?
Yeah, you're not supposed to look up at it, and they do have these special glasses. And when go ahead.
Do not look unless you have the proper equipment.
Absolutely. I remember when I worked at a medical clinic, we were having an eclipse. We weren't in the line for a total one, but there was an eclipse nonetheless. And I remember the doctors telling them that they could use an X-ray film to look through it. And so I don't know if that was really safe or not, but that's what the doctors had told some of us there on the staff. I couldn't go out because I was the switchboard operator and I was a little stuck in my corner. So, so I didn't really get to go see it. But
speaking of vision, I don't understand how you can have a destroyer, a guided missile destroyer, the USS John S. McCain, collide with a merchant vessel while east of Singapore and the Strait of Malacca. Now, I did hear that the Strait of Malacca does have, it's very heavily used with merchant ships and so forth, but still, and this is the second one in how many, weeks or months, and it kind of puzzles how with the amount of the equipment, the technology that you have on these destroyers, how can this occur? I want to know.
Well, I want to know, too, and it seems like this is the second one we've had in, a month's time?
Mm-hmm.
And those vessels that they're ramming into, or whatever, they're not small little vessels. And the U.S., it says in this article that I have that it sustained great damage, the collision east of the Singapore between the destroyer and the 183rd meter, or 600 foot. It tells you exactly where it happened. They know exactly where it happened, but it's taken a big hit, and so did the other one, and I can't remember the name of the other one. And not only that, we have 10 men missing and 5 injured, and I haven't heard any update on that this morning. And, of course, the USS McCain was named after the admirals that happened to be grandfather and father to the Senator John McCain. But this is a big deal, I think, Melody. I'm really concerned. They fired those in administration or whatever, the admirals or whatever they were, captains on the other ship. So somebody else going to get fired. I mean, what's going on that these ships all of a sudden can't seem to get through their motion without hitting something?
The technology that they have on these vessels, they can probably scout out a goldfish if it was somewhere around the destroyer. So how do you go missing a merchant vessel? And particularly, accidents happen. We can get that on the first one. But the second one, it's just odd. And I think people were fired, but I think that people need to be held far more accountable and really find out what's going on. Is the technology failing? On Friday, there was the State Department suffers worldwide email outage. Well, yeah, you think email, big deal. Who cares? And supposedly it was affecting just the unclassified emails. And the outage began early Friday morning, that technicians were working to restore email as soon as possible. The officials said the outage was not caused by any external action or interference. The department was forced to shut down its unclassified email in 2014, and at that time it was believed to be affiliated with Russia, and the maintenance explanation was a cover story, and of course the system had been hacked. So my question is, is there any relation to the technology? Is this a bigger problem, perhaps, that there is hacking going on into these systems to interrupt the ability to see ships, but you'd still think that someone on board the ship would say, gee, that boat's getting awfully close.
Well, and I'm going the other way. I'm wondering if it's not a sabotage of some kind. And let's go back, and this may be far out.
Hacking could be.
This may be far out, but we know that this IT guy that worked for the Democrat Party and Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been protecting it says here that federal authorities are investigating whether sensitive data was stolen from congressional offices by several Pakistani American tech staffers and sold to Pakistan or Russia, intelligence knowledgeable sources are saying. It said what started out 16 months ago as a scandal involving the alleged theft of computer equipment from Congress has turned into a national security investigation involving FBI surveillance of the suspects. Now, you go on to read this. This stuff is serious. And what are we dealing with on the news? The tearing down and the complaining about statues. Now, if this has been going on and they're giving intelligence, and we have two of our major ships that hit vessels that are, you really ought to be able to see them. They're huge, huge. What's going on with that? You could say once is an accident, but two here in 2 months, in a month's time? I'm starting to get a little bit suspicious, and it's a little bit scary because those are some main vessels that we have.
That's my point, the hacking. Are they getting in there and hacking these vessels? Sure, this cover story could be, it was emails. But if they're getting into the emails, that means someone is out there actively hacking into these systems. And whether it be Pakistanis, whether it be Russians, whether it be, from the information, leaked
somebody
from the DNC.
North Korea.
Someone is doing, some sort of...
Something's going on.
Something is going on, and that was my point. It's the hacking. If they can hack into the emails, there's someone actively out there trying to get into the systems.
My point was
a little bit of proof.
My point was, I agree with you on the hacking, but that I think that maybe they've had help with the DNC.
Absolutely.
And here we were going after, President Donald Trump for Russia collusion, and I believe it is. I believe there's been a collusion, but I don't believe it's been with a presidential candidate, not Donald Trump anyway. So It is very concerning, I think, and very suspicious. And I don't consider myself an overly suspicious person, but this is just kind of almost blatant to me.
Well, I don't believe in coincidences.
No, I don't either. And they say there is no accident in politics either.
Right.
Something happens for a reason.
So it makes me...
Go ahead.
So it makes me wonder why Steve Bannon left on Friday. Mm-hmm. Mutual agreement. And he is going back to Breitbart. And it seems like he is going to rally his troops at Breitbart News to continue the battles that he had waged inside the White House. He told a staff member that we have a duty to the country to be the vanguard of, quote-unquote, the movement. And so it seems that Bannon's main targets of the White Wing, or the West Wing, of course he's targeting Jared Kushner, and that's always been rumors, and the former Goldman Sachs president Gary Cohn, as well as the hawks comprised of National Security Advisor McMaster, Dina Powell. He wants to beat their ideas into submission. Breitbart News editor-in-chief Alex Marlow had mentioned. He says Steve has a lot of things up his sleeve.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Yes.
And, I just don't know quite what to think of him yet. I don't know enough about him. If you listen to what so many say, he's really not a nice guy, but I know that he has been really, or it appears to me that he's been fighting for the Republic. So I don't know.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann, and the number to call, and we welcome your calls, is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. We hope you're having a wonderful Monday. It is Eclipse Day here in the United States of America. I guess it is everywhere, but we're in line to receive a full eclipse, total eclipse here in the mid-Missouri area where I'm at. Lots of folks coming in. I watched. We're gonna get back on our topic here. I'm sorry, Melody. I watched the news last night, and they had a scientist on, and they asked him where he was going to be, and he was going to be in Missouri. So he's coming to Missouri to watch the eclipse. So I'm sorry, we're kind of excited about it here. But anyway.
Well, I hope he tells someone where he's going. Oh, he did the country.
Yeah, he did. He told everyone.
He told everyone. Hope he has some cash on him. You know, it's dangerous in Missouri, as they.
I know it is, and he was Asian, so I'm sure. Oh,
and
gracious!
People know I'm only kidding. I love Missouri, and the people of Missouri are just fabulous. I
Thank
live
you.
there.
I'm fabulous, darling.
I lived
fabulous.
there for about 10 years. I lived in Missouri. Well, maybe not 10, but close.
All my life, born and raised here.
And,
born in the Kansas
I was
City
down there
area.
around the Ozarks, so.
Yeah, Warsaw. You said. That's where I spent my play day yesterday. I've got a friend that has a place down there at the lake, and she invited us and a few other couples down, and we just played all day.
Well, that's awesome.
Took 2 boat rides, and just played all day. Okay. It's lots of fun. So anyway, back to this hacking. You and I were talking, or Bannon, back to Bannon.
Why don't you give the listeners the phone number, and let's see what they think about Bannon.
Absolutely. What is your opinion? We've heard so much, but I don't really know the guy. I'd never really heard of him really before all the campaign got fired up. 717-300-1218. 717-300-1218. Is he truly the racist and the bigot and all these things that the media is telling us that he is, or is he doing something else? Is he working for good or working for profit? You're listening to Power Talks, and the number to call is 717-300-1218.
Well, you know, he does have, the media, supposedly, he does have ambitions to compete with Fox News. Last week in New York, he was with his billionaire benefactor, Robert Mercer, and discussed ways to expand Breitbart into TV. Television is definitely on the table, a Bannon advisor told this writer. He said a partnership with Sinclair remains a possibility. In recent days, Sinclair's chief political analyst, Boris Epstein, has spoken with Breitbart editors about ways to form an alliance. All the way Sinclair guys are super tight with Breitbart. Imagine if we got together with Hannity and O'Reilly and started something. So certainly it would be kind of interesting. And there's reports that they think that Ivanka is really the one who had Bannon ousted from the White House. I don't think we all really would know, but there's certainly a lot of reports that point to that direction. So
well, and it's funny that you would mention that he here in this last week leaving the White House, and it says he resigned. He wasn't fired, but my computer keeps locking up. I have
Trust
here.
me, they're all fired because no one would leave those positions on their own. It's just it's an option for them.
But Trump, I got an article around the first part of. Boy, the computers are really having problems, aren't they? Right around the first part of August, that Trump was starting a media right out of Trump Tower, and they had some pretty little blonde that was giving his reports as he wanted them given, because he didn't trust the mainstream media. And so I'm going to click on this again and see if it doesn't bring it up. But anyway, they call it launches his own propaganda, but it's TV Trump is what they're, or Trump TV, and it said he quietly launched his own propaganda, and that was around the 7th of August, and I heard that, and it was quite interesting, I thought, and it's really interesting now that you mentioned that they might that might be what Bannon's up to. That maybe Bannon and Trump were kind of planning on let's get something else started.
Yeah,
I think Fox could use a little competition myself. The mainstream media could certainly use something else. But, if they're all owned by these billionaires, and I guess you have to almost be one to to get anything done. You sure can't be what I am and get a whole lot done. That it's interesting that he might be doing that and launching something new right after, during the same month as apparently Donald Trump had started I don't know why he won't stay on that article. It just keeps popping all over the place. But anyway, started.
And again, there's no such thing as coincidences.
I don't believe there is. I think you're absolutely right, and it's amazing to me that when you said that, because that was the first thing that popped back into my head was the article that I had seen on that.
But we do have a caller. We have Jean in West Virginia calling us. Welcome to the program, Jean.
Hi, Jean. Good morning.
Thank you. And, hi, ladies. The reason I called was, by the way, I really like both of your programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The reason I called is I know the value of the money is down. And if we turn around and have a crash at some point, then my concern is what will be the value of the dollar as far as the government's concerned in assessing taxes. How would we go about paying it? And, how much would they assess since there's no value to the money? I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Jean.
Appreciate it. Melanie, I'm going to throw that one to you.
Well, there's a lot of things that we don't know until we get there. But, they will default on the dollar and create a new currency. They will default on their debt. So that is the problem. So that's why gold and silver is so important. That's why gold and silver is so important in holding, because we know what they have to do. They have to continue with inflation. We will go into a hyperinflation, but the problem is we're at a point in time that it hasn't happened to us, and not to the degree. I mean, we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of debt that can't be paid. So our currency has already lost, 92% of its value. Just today, in fact, I was going to talk about it today. Ron Paul, he talks about, he's looking at a 50% pullback in the stock markets. He says he doesn't believe it's 10 years off. He doesn't believe it's a year off.
I don't either.
Yeah, and he says it's all man-made, and it is. It's not the fault of Donald Trump in the last week. If the markets crashes tomorrow and we have a Great Depression, it wasn't done in 6 months. I mean, it's been created since the Federal Reserve. And after they confiscated our gold in 1933, the only reason they confiscated our gold in 1933 so they could create all the programs that they did to get us out of the Depression. But did it really? It got us out of the Depression, but look what it got us. Bigger government, bigger programs, deeper in debt, more debt in order to pay the old debt. And it has, and here we are today. This is what has been created. All of our problems today go back to a fiat currency, because nothing. So we have things to face that we don't know. People say, well, how will I pay off my house, or how will my mortgage be revalued, and so forth. I think these are times that we have to get there. I can remember in various countries, it was Mexico, they say, hey, by September 1, you have to hand in all your U.S. dollars, and for every 10 that you hand in, you'll get one of the new currencies. That's how they do things. That's how they will get your money. That's how they will devalue. And if we have someone in office that understands a gold currency, well, maybe we have a chance to get real money back. But I think things are going to unfold that we really don't know exactly how it will transform. But what we do know is our dollar will be replaced. We already have China and Russia working to get do less transactions in the U.S. dollar. I mean, we have other countries that are trying to do the same thing. We have Iran in there that is selling its oil in various currencies, and so again, the trend is getting away from the dollar. And once that confidence is lost in that dollar, and these countries begin to dump their dollars, it's history for anybody who owns and who has saved in dollars.
Well, a loaded question. Do you think that President Donald Trump knows the value of having the gold backing the dollar?
I heard him say that it would be great to have a gold-backed currency, to go back to a gold standard, but I also heard him say it will never happen. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he was saying it won't happen in the time, before we can go there. But he did say, and I heard him say, it wouldn't happen. It's not feasible. So maybe he's talking about while we're still transacting business as usual, it's not feasible. He didn't say after the collapse whether it would be. So I really don't know.
Yeah, well, it's hard to predict something
loves
that
gold.
really.
We know he loves gold. Just look at his apartment in New York. I mean, everything is in gold. So he understands it. That's
he likes it. He likes the color gold.
So, and that was one of the reasons why I voted for Trump. Is I believed that if we have a collapse, when we have the collapse, he would be the person that I would want there to pick up the pieces. So
I do think he has some savvy on that, and I did not trust Hillary Clinton to do anything.
No.
I think that would have been a disaster. Not that this has been any cakewalk, as they say. It just keeps getting uglier and uglier and uglier, and it's getting vile on Twitter. And not just Donald Trump. It's people in general. We have a divide in this country like we've never seen before, and in our lifetime. And what's going on? What's that?
Trump has even talked about renegotiating the bonds, the treasuries.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really? Do you understand how big that market is and how that would collapse that market? And all your pensions, all your retirement accounts, everyone is holding. And the world is holding U.S. bonds and treasuries. So,
well, and like we've talked on CSC Talk Radio before, that and by the way, you're due to be on with me on Wednesday,
Yes, I am.
It's, we're not the only country suffering with fiat dollars.
Oh, the world.
Other countries have followed this same suit, and it's not doing good for anybody.
Nope. And that's all part of the global collapse.
To bring it to one?
To bring it to one.
One currency? Kind of like Obamacare, bring it to one provider. I mentioned to somebody, because this trip I took to Oklahoma was a medical field, the FMMA was the Free Medical Market Association, but there was lots of people there, and I said, when they were talking about that, I said, they believe too it was intended to collapse and come down to one provider. I said, remember when monopolies used to be against the law? They said, yeah, didn't Ma Bell get divided up because of that? I said, yeah. So it's I guess it depends on.
It's actually Microsoft who has been able to really. You're right. They broke up Ma Bell, but Microsoft they fought it and they won. So I think they were probably one of the first. I'd have to point them to them as the first monopoly. Bernie Sanders supposedly already is going to introduce and has a plan for one payer system.
Yeah, that's what he wants, and that's what
he wants.
Little Lizzie wants too. Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, so they are true socialists.
They absolutely are. And that is the biggest problem right here. That's what this is all about. These riots and things that are taking place over the statues and monuments, that is, again, it's not by accident, it's by design. It's also a distraction to distract us from the other things, like this hacking that we talked about and this deal with this IT guy and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. None of the mainstream media is talking about that, and that is huge. And nobody's talking about that. All of a sudden, Russia's not being mentioned very much.
No, not at all. And I do believe these are distractions. I always listen to the other side. You have to know your enemy.
Absolutely.
And I'll listen to some of these. I can't talk. I can't.
It's hard. It's hard. They go off on the tangents that they absolutely make absolutely no sense. It's just stuff they're pulling out of thin air.
And they're lies. Even the stuff that they try to, it's just, you're right, it's just pulling out of thin air. It's lies.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
lies.
is. What if such and such and such and such?
What they're doing in Washington on the Jefferson Monument, that they're going to rewrite his bio to include that he was a slave owner and, not a very nice one. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
Yet they have monuments of Bill Clinton. So we monument, and I don't want to use the other word that I was going to use. A statue for a man that we know is a rapist.
Yeah.
So is that? I'm not defending slavery at all. It's bad. It's ugly. It's been around since the beginning of time, but that doesn't make it right. And we have gone past that. These statues have been standing there for how many years? And have they really enslaved these people so badly that they have to take them down? I don't think so. This CNN guy, he says tonight's host Don Lemon said that the display of Robert E. Lee statues was akin to having schools named after Osama bin Laden. This is their crazy mentality. Alice Stewart says it's got their little, what they said back and forth here. He says, I saw you raise the Confederate flag at the beginning of the show. I've been through South Carolina hundreds of times in my life. Now we understand how that is harmful to people and hurtful to people, and we need to take that into consideration. But at the same time, that is not something for the president to do or full swoop across the board. This is local issues that need to be decided. And I have an article, too, here about the governor of Virginia. It says, after the violence that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia, the governor of the state, Terry McAuliffe, I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right, signed an executive order on Friday. With the stroke of a pen, he has banned any and all demonstrations from taking place at Lee Monument in Richmond for the next 3 months. Clearly, it is against the First Amendment. This is coming from a conservative group. It says McAuliffe's statement included the usual talking points, void of any meaning but scary sounding enough to garner attention. And it says, in spite of weeks of preparation, the city of Charlottesville was the target of an act of domestic terrorism that cost one woman her life and had a helicopter accident led to the deaths of 2 state troopers. Well, also, who was it that gave the stand-down order that allowed these things to take place and escalate? This stuff is, like we say, it's not accidental. It's by design.
Well, I want to know why the helicopter crashed. Is it because of the people on the ground? Unless they threw something at it. So why did it crash? They would have crashed if it was going out to look at the sunsets.
Well,
why did the helicopter crash? Do you know? Do you know, Beth?
I don't know why it crashed. I never did hear in fact, they don't talk about it much at all.
Except to blame it on the
on the white supremacists. And I haven't seen them. They're not the ones that are causing all the violence right now. They're not the ones doing it. I had an article, and I've lost all my articles this morning. I had an article where a guy was stabbed to death because of his haircut, because the guy just believed because he had a haircut similar to the white supremacist people that he was white supremacy, stabbed him, multiple stab wounds, stabbed him to death. He was totally innocent. So who's perpetrating the real violence here? I'm not defending neo-Nazis by any means. As a mom, it takes 2 to fight. And the alternate group that was there, they came loaded for fight. And they're the ones knocking down the statues. They're the ones that are shooting the cops. They're the ones that are out there doing the violence right now.
I mean, what kind of people are they who want to erase history? And these are the people who don't even know history. They just want to erase it. I mean, what kind of a nation erases their history? I mean, we should be looking at our history to see how far we've come.
We need to remember the bad, the dark side of our history as well as the good. And the Civil War was a dark side. It was a dark time in this country, a division. And I believe we're seeing that right now. And
nobody
you
talks
and I are
about...
not prejudiced. We're not racist.
Absolutely not. And I hate when I make a comment, someone says, "Oh, that's a racist comment." Really? Do you even know what racism is? When people say that, or are you just parroting, mimicking someone that you heard on television on a mainstream media program to call me that? And it's people don't even know why the Civil War was started.
No, they don't. They don't know their history, and of course, they don't teach that part of the history.
Of course not.
They do not teach that part of the history, and to remove the First Amendment is just the beginning. They don't want you to, and I'm just saying that I don't think they should be protesting these statues. They shouldn't be tearing them down. But the First Amendment gives them the right to at least protest.
Mm-hmm.
You can't legislate common sense or smarts, but it does give them the right to protest, not violently. They don't have the right to remove or destroy property. That's not a right. But to protest against the government is absolutely a right. And politically correct jargon has taken that away. This idiot from CNN saying that it's like, to have these monuments for General Lee is like naming a school after Osama bin Laden. He's just crazy. There was I can't even think of the school now, so I better be quiet. I can't think of the school, but I love Larry Elder. I don't know if you watch him or not. I don't get to watch him or listen. I watch him when he's on Fox, but he has a radio show himself, and he's a black conservative. And he's really been going at this, and, not that anybody's listening to him that should be. The rest of us, he's preaching to the choir, I guess, but he tweeted out one of the schools, I think it wasn't Harvard, was it? Anyway, the person it's named after was a slave owner. So, oopsie, what are they going to do? They got to change the name of that school, too. I mean, when is it going to end? It just goes on and on and on. But I liked the one he tweeted last night. He says it's time to tear down this monument to slavery, and he's got the big billboard of the Internal Revenue Service building, the big plaque that's in front of the Internal Revenue Service building. I don't think people understand how enslaved they truly are to the big government here in the United States right now.
I hear the music. We're out of here, Beth. For a short time.
No, we're just going into another break.
Yes, that's
we're not out of here yet. We're going into another break. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom in the morning. Your calls are welcome. We love to hear from you. 717-300-1218. 717-300-1218. We threw out a question to you earlier. What is your opinion on Steve Bannon? What is your opinion on Steve Bannon? 717-300-1218, and Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. we're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Color of your eyes. Oh, mine are blue.
I have to get colored contacts.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. And we believe there is power in truth and Power Talks. And we're trying to bring the truth to you as best we can. It's hard to sift through it all every day. And it's hard to sift through it all every day and remain positive, isn't it, Melody?
It certainly is. It really is. And people will comment to me, don't you have anything good to say? You're always so negative. It's like, well, truth sometimes is negative.
And painful.
If you wanted to hear all about roses and sunshine, well, listen to CNN or something. But I don't know. But truth is difficult. It's difficult to hear. And when we mention the truth about Maxine Waters,
oh my goodness, that woman!
I saved this for you.
You saved this?
Yeah, this was her comment from August 18th, and I saw it, and I thought of Beth, and I thought, I'm going to have to just wait till she's back on Monday to. Maxine, here we go. Enjoy this. Confusion is the headline. Maxine Waters accuses Ben Carson of being a white-wing nationalist. Maxine Waters' latest rant against Donald Trump and his administration was so unhinged it amounted to word spittle that could be heard on any street corner in L.A. Appearing before the Los Angeles Community Review Board, Waters launched into Trump, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, and HUD Secretary Ben Carson. Complaining there is uncertainty because of the Trump administration, Waters said Mr. Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary, is responsible for over 36,000 foreclosures in this area, is now the Secretary of Treasury, repeating herself. Standing next to him just yesterday, or day before yesterday, I'm getting these days mixed up.
I know. It's crazy.
She continued, while the president was defending the white-wing nationalists of the KKK and all of those alt-right groups that were basically out there in Virginia, literally beating and marching and ranting about Jews and black people, etc., she said. But this is what his cabinet looks like. What we're here talking about Mnuchin or Ben Carson. Water then promised she would skewer him soon. He's got to come before my committee. If you think reclaiming my time that I did with Mnuchin, you wait till Ben Carson comes. Then she just goes on, and she says, being appointed Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, being a House Negro are two different things. It now appears HUD Secretary Ben Carson is eminently qualified to be a House Negro, but remains as unqualified as ever to lead HUD. Behold the House Negro, the editorial declared. And this was the Michigan Chronicle, a black newspaper in Detroit. So I can't believe what I read and hear.
Well, Maxine Waters, just about anything will fall out of that woman's mouth. They used to.
And it does.
I know it's morning, and maybe people are eating breakfast, and I have to apologize for my comment that I'm about ready to make. But somebody like Maxine Waters, that can't keep her mouth shut and doesn't know what she's saying and just keeps spewing and spewing and spewing. We used to say that person has diarrhea of the mouth. It just goes on and on and on. The woman hasn't got a lick of common sense. I say that. She's very, very wealthy, and I'm very, very poor. But the woman to blame Ben Carson as being, almost calling him a white supremacist, I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. They can't stand a person that's got extreme intelligence, especially one of color, that has extreme intelligence and has been very successful. Maxine Waters, I dare say, has never saved a life in her entire lifetime. Ben Carson has saved many lives. He's a gentle soul, but a strong individual. He stands up for what's right, and when he speaks, it's truth. I don't believe the man lies. I don't believe he does. But I haven't seen Maxine ever tell the truth. She just goes on and on and on. And I apologize if anybody was eating breakfast when I made that comment, but she just goes on and on and on. And she's pretty good for comedy, I guess, but people like her are just tearing this nation apart because they want socialism and they want to profit. And that woman is filthy rich. She doesn't even live in the district that she represents, which I'm thinking, why would anybody vote for somebody like that? She's got a multi-million-dollar home, and yet she claims that she stands for the poor. I don't think you have to be poor to stand up for the poor. But I don't believe that's what Maxine Waters does or ever has done. Rumor is that she's not very well liked, even in Congress.
Well, she's 79 years old, and and I do believe she is beginning to have mental difficulties. And
and Pelosi too. Have you noticed how they stammer and stutter and they don't quite get it out there right? I mean, she was fighting George Bush.
Yes.
She couldn't even say President Donald Trump. That's another issue. I mean, that's another point that they just spew. They don't stop and think about what they're saying. They just get out there and say it, and then they make fun of, President Trump's speeches.
Something about Ben Carson too is, he talks about his walk with Christ. He talks about his Christianity,
and when he changed, when
me?
His life turned around.
Yeah. And that's something we don't hear. And that's another reason why they dislike him.
Yeah.
Is because of his faith.
That's exactly right. I do have the article in front of me that talks about the reports that are coming in. It just shows more violations of Americans' religious freedom, and the hostility toward religion is on the rise in the United States, according to a new report. The American Christian, and we don't really know persecution, but I think we're finding it out. What's going on now is pretty mild, but I think it's going to get worse.
And and when we're talking about this, and we talk about the unrest and going across this country, folks, what do you think that's going to do to your finances? What do you think it's going to do to the stock market? What do you think it's going to do with our trade and the ability to get things completed out of Washington? And, it used to be that, if they can't get things completed in Washington, that might be a good thing. They can't continue to destroy this country. That might be true to some degree, but also to save this country, there's things that have to be passed. And I'm a believer that there is an agenda, and I'm a believer that the agenda will be carried out one way or another. I believe we've gone too far in debt that it's impossible to turn anything around. You can continue to throw, what do they say, good money after bad money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do any good. You get a stay. You get to kick the can down a little bit further down that road. But until the main problem is solved, there isn't anything that's going to be right in this country. And we're going to continue to see the division. We're going to continue to see the divide and conquer. And
I think we're going to continue to see the insanity.
Yes,
those who are so easily led astray, and that's what's happening with these riots. These people they don't really know, and they're being used. Some of them are being paid The others are just being fooled and they're being used, and I wonder if they'll ever figure that out. I wonder if they'll ever figure out where slavery actually came from and why it happened. And it's wrong. It does, whether you were the seller or the buyer, the owner, it was wrong. And it goes back a long, long ways, and it's something that it is a travesty, but none of us believe in slavery today. But the Muslims do. The Muslims believe in it, and they have slaves. But, here in America, we don't believe in that. We don't follow that anymore. And the Civil War was about so much more, and I hear music melody.
It's the end. It goes by so fast.
It does. We say that a lot, don't we?
Yes, we do.
It was great to be back with you. Thank you for spending Eclipse Morning with me.
Glad to have you back.
I appreciate it.
And hopefully no jury duty for 2 weeks.
Oh, yes, you're still on the hold for that, aren't you? Let's pray for no jury duty for you. Calm day at the courthouse. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann, and we wish for you a great day filled with truth.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.